Okay, let's go. Welcome, everybody, even though we've been secretly chatting on the side. This is a class that I have called There is Hope. I call it this There is Hope because I believe we as Americans really need to hear a message of hope right now because there are so many things that are confusing in the world. And so one of the things we're going to be covering are like what you can do and what you can't do. And towards the end of the conversation, I'm going to be actually taking a deep dive into what's going on with the CARE Act, the stimulus packages, what you can expect, and all of that. So I know you're going to want to take really good notes as we go through this. But before we get to the note-taking section, let's actually talk about what hope is. Hope is not about false hope because we are all grown-ups and we are like on week 3 of quarantine at this point, and we all know now that there isn't an easy button for what's going on. But what this space is for all of you is a space where we as a group begin to explore what's possible instead of the feeling that all hope is lost. Hope is the place where the truth and our faith align. Our faith in our business, our faith in our nation, our faith in our core values. Where hope is that space when the truth and faith get in alignment together, and then we can have peace. So even though our economy and your business was completely halted by the government, there is hope. Because hope is not giving up, hope is innovating, and hope is doing the next right thing. Now, I'm not making light of what's going on here. I'm not. This sucks. This is scary. This is uncertain. But what I am here to do is to help us think straight. I'm here to help lead you, empower you, and educate you, and to give yourself permission to be empowered around some of the most scary subjects that we're facing as Americans right now, which is our finances, right? Our health and our finances are top of mind. And it's important that we not just gloss over those things, that we actually understand that we are in this space. And I'm just honored to be here as your guest speaker, teaching on one of the two really important subjects, which is money. More importantly, I'm here to help you think straight because the reality of it is you are grieving. I want to tell you a story before we go any further. My mom died several years ago, and we knew she was going to die. And when the day came that hospice was called in, my mom's choice was to pass at home. That's what she wanted. And so we knew it was happening. We were mentally and emotionally preparing for it. But I knew that I did not want to be in the room or in the home when she passed. So what I did is I went home one night, and then when I woke up the next morning, I got a message on my phone saying that she had passed in the night. And of course, the first stage of grief is shock, right? You're in absolute shock. And so I went over to the house and I parked in the garage, the driveway, and I walked through the door of my family home, like a door that I've walked through millions of times. And as I walked into the foyer, I stood there and it felt like I had lead in my legs. I literally could not move. I just stood there. And part of why I stood there is the way the house was structured. Like you walked through the door, and over here to the right was the living room and kitchen, and over to the left was a hallway. And the very first door in that hallway was my mom's room. And there was something going through my brain where I just didn't want to see my mom's room. I just didn't want to see it. So I stood there, and my sisters came up to me and they were like, "Leanne, you've got to move." And I just couldn't. I was just stuck. And I was frozen because I was in shock. And at some point in the day, I think it had been standing there for an hour or longer. One of my sisters came up to me, grabbed me by the hand and said, "You are moving now." And so she guided me by the hand and had me sit on the couch. And I actually feel like this space that we're all in together today is a lot like that, because the reality of it is that we are as a nation grieving, and we are shocked. We are absolutely shocked by what's happened. And when we're shocked, we sometimes don't know what to do. And sometimes we don't know what steps we need to take. And so I see this as a moment where all of us together acknowledge that we are in shock and we are grieving. And this class, this specific moment, is about helping each of us take the first step out of that shock and that grief. The reality of it is we as a nation have been shocked before, right? We've been completely shocked when 2001, 9/11 happened. Our nation was stunned and shocked. And then all of you are realtors, so you know this probably better than me, but the housing bubble burst was another huge shock to our nation. And now we're here where we're having, our whole nation, our whole economy has been brought to its knees by this pandemic. We've been shocked before. Then what I think I want to just acknowledge for all of us here is that what we're really grappling with is the loss of normalcy. And we're afraid, even if we're trying not to be afraid, we're afraid of the economic toll. And we're really experiencing for the first time a serious loss of connection with in our professional life and in our personal life. So this is shock plus the loss of normalcy. So let's deal with what we can't change. What we can't change is that your customers are locked in their homes and they are probably not feeling like this is a very good time to buy or sell real estate. We can't change that a business that you created with blood, sweat, tears, and maybe some debt is completely stalled because lenders, I'm hearing, are focused on financial triage, and there are inefficiencies all around while companies large and small are learning how to handle a stay-at-home workforce, etc. So everything is inefficient in the financial sector right now, including lenders, which deeply impacts your guys' business. You can't change that you're scared, you can't change that you don't have answers, and you can't change that you're angry and hurting. So what we can change is what we're going to focus on today. We are going to take advantage of this moment by starting to work on our businesses versus in it. I'll pick on myself because there's no one else to pick on, but I can tell you that normally I have a very, very busy, very full practice. And gosh, because we started late, I didn't even introduce myself. How ridiculous. So I'm going to introduce myself and then I'm going to dive into the story I wanted to tell you. So my name is Leanne, and I'm a financial planner. And I also have another practice where I do business consulting, which I refer to as profit coaching, where I help business owners get really stinking profitable by changing what they do and they don't do with money. And it's like the most fabulous part of my business is just working with business owners to shift their thinking around money so that they get a different result. And in this season, I can honestly say that the best part of what's going on right now is people who've been through my coaching program are coming to me in droves saying, oh my gosh, thank you so much for teaching me how to do things differently with my money, because I have cash reserves. I'm okay. I'm still scared because I can't do this forever because my business was just shut down, but I'm okay. And so that to me has been the greatest blessing as a professional, to just walk with people through that. So what I was going to say about myself and regarding working on our business versus working in it is that my practices are full, and I go from meeting to meeting all day, and I just love it, but it's all day. I sometimes don't have time to even eat lunch. And so it's been pretty hard for me over the years to find space to stop and work on my businesses, because I'm always working on everybody else's businesses with them. And so I think that's a good example of what we have going on today with this class, but also just in general, like as professionals, realize that we've been given a moment, maybe a month or maybe more, where we can take advantage of working on our businesses, innovating our businesses, changing what we do or what we don't do as business owners, instead of just working on the next appointment or the next sale or whatever. So I really want to encourage you guys that there are things that you need to be doing from a financial triage standpoint to get you through the next 8 weeks. So let's talk about 8 weeks. The reason I'm saying 8 weeks is because I'm a financial planner and investment manager, I have to look at the stock market every day. I have to listen to economists. Like, that's a big part of my job. And nobody knows what's going to happen. But I can tell you that my sense is that obviously it's not going to be business as usual anytime soon. I think it's reasonable that we should be planning for reopening our businesses full bore in the next 8 weeks. I think it will start as stages, and we will slowly get back to something normal. But what are we going to do for the next 8 weeks is the question. So I'd like to give you guys kind of an 8-week plan. And then we're going to dive into the stuff that we need to be doing with the government aid programs and everything. So I want to remind you that the next 8 weeks are not going to last forever, and that 8 weeks isn't that long ago. So 8 weeks ago, we were post-coital with Christmas. 8 weeks ago, just 8 weeks ago, we were enjoying a thriving economy. Unemployment was at an all-time low, believe it or not. We were taking for granted that we had a stock market that was at its all-time high. The real estate market was super hot. We were having a problem, and still do have a problem, with not enough inventory. And so this is the snapshot of us as a nation 8 weeks ago. It isn't that long ago, right? So we want to remember that this 8 weeks that we have to work on our businesses and work on our finances isn't that long. And then we will be back to working in our businesses full bore and back to the normal and back to the crazy. So we are going to be creating a plan for the next 8 weeks, starting with some clear thinking mindsets. I know I shared with you a little bit about my practices, and one of the things that has been happening for me is business owners from all over the country are coming to me and being like, please help me figure out this loan thing. What do I do with payroll? And so there's a lot going on there. And what I find when I look back is all I am doing all day long right now is helping people think clearly. Because when we're scared and afraid, when we're in grief, we aren't thinking clearly. And so what I really hope that you guys get from this hour is the permission and the very few places that you need to think clearly so that you can get through this without being scathed. So here is our first clear thinking mindset. You shall not make long-term decisions with short-term information. We shall not make long-term decisions with short-term information. Short-term information is what we are seeing every minute of the day if we keep looking at the news, right? Short-term information is changing all the time. We cannot use that short-term information to make long-term decisions. So this isn't a good time, much like when I've worked with families that are in grief as a financial planner, mom or dad or a spouse dies, one of the first things that any financial consultant would say to somebody is, you're not going to make any major purchase for the next 2 years. You're not going to make any big decisions for the next 2 years. Because when we are afraid and we are shocked, like we all are as a nation, we tend to make long-term decisions with short-term information, and we fundamentally screw up our financial life when we do that. So we need to be meditating on the truth right now. And the truth is that this is not going to be our forever place. Almost every small business around the globe is closed. So there's a level playing field. So as realtors, it's not like one of you has an advantage over another because of how markets are opened. Reality is most businesses, all of our businesses are going to reopen, and we need to be ready for it mentally, emotionally, and financially. And we have some opportunities today to learn some things and get clear about what has worked for your business financially and what hasn't worked for your business financially, so that you can restart stronger than you were when you went into this crisis. So one of the things I talk a lot about, and I wish I was good with the whiteboard thing here in Zoom, but I suck at it. So I'm going to make a slide for you. But as a business consultant, what I can tell you I see sticks business owners, and you're all business owners. You're small, independent business owners. The number one thing that I see people being stuck with is they're stuck in something called the make more money vortex. That's what I call it. And the make more money vortex is all about how we make money and how we behave with money. So life is forcing you to take this opportunity to look on your financial habits as a business owner, and you're giving an opportunity right now to reevaluate. And if you're honest with yourself about maybe what you're stressed about when you're thinking about your personal money or your personal business, is that you have been stuck in a vortex because almost everyone that comes to me professionally is stuck in this vortex where we're spending money to make money, and now the making money part of things has completely halted, right? So this is what the vortex looks like. So I've worked with lots and lots of realtors in my career, and so I know just enough to be dangerous about your guys' habits with money, your mindsets about money when it comes to your real estate business. And one of the biggest distinctions, which I think that's really unique to realtors, is if we had a traditional job prior to starting a real estate business, we leave that professional job, or maybe we keep that professional job and we hustle, and real estate is our side hustle until we decide that real estate isn't our side hustle. And so we have this mindset that what we used to make in our job is the same as what we make when we get our commission checks. So it's very confusing, and we don't have hours to discuss this, but I know that in a few months, I'm going to be your guest speaker at one of your luncheons, and we're going to really dive into that and how to fix that. But for today, what I want to address is the make money vortex and what it actually looks like and how it may apply to your business. So when we start a real estate business, we know that there's fairly low overhead, right? It's just a lot of your time as an expense, but there are expenses from, you know, the fees with your MLS to, there's just fees. There's just money that you spend. So we know that at the beginning of starting a real estate business, we need about $200 a month to just break even. And then we start getting involved, we start doing things. And because we're Americans, we've been raised in a culture that says that we have to spend money to make money, or it takes money to make money. And so we believe that. And so what happens is we start spending money. It might be ads, it might be a lead generation program, it might be buying a new car, it could be any number of things that we do that we believe we need to spend money so that people will do business with us. So as a culture, what we do is we spend money to make money. And now all of a sudden, instead of $200 a month to break even, now we need $500 a month to break even. And so that's a cycle we get stuck in as business owners, and we think, okay, well, it at least worked. Now my break-even point's higher, but it at least worked, like I made some money. And so what we do is we go do it all again. We spend some more money so that we can make some money, and then before we know it, our break-even point's $1,000. The reason I want to share this with you is that my entire practice is around getting business owners out of this mentality. That's the whole reason that my practice exists. This is the vortex that we are in as Americans with our businesses and our personal finances. The fact that our government is going to be sending $1,200 to us in our bank accounts here really soon illustrates something that I've been talking about for a long time. Most American families are $400 away from financial disaster. Most American families cannot even weather a $1,000 disaster. And so when we're thinking abundantly, what I love about knowing that is that $400 is the meaningful difference for most families. So if a real estate business can have a large commission check that we amortize over several months, for most families, that $400 is the place where we start to feel financially comfortable. So when we have this relationship between what our business makes and what our family gets, we find that water is very muddy. What I want to point out to you is that your break-even point, this idea of spending money to make money, gets you stuck, because the more you make, the more you spend. And the more you spend, the more you have to make. And it becomes this vicious cycle. And that's why I think so many people are financially stressed out. And the realtors I've worked with over the years are no exception to that rule. So I want to put you guys in a space of mind right now where you start to let go of the thought that whatever financially is burdening you personally or bothering your business, you have to let go of the thinking that making more money, like if I could just get this house to close, if I could just get this done, making more money is not going to be your long-term solution. Because as we just looked at, the more we spend, the more we have to make just to break even. I'm sure if you were honest, you could like sit back, and I know this is true because when I work with people one-on-one, I watch the body language. And when we describe this, I've never had a business owner say to me, that doesn't apply to me. No, what every business owner says to me is like, yeah, I remember when I started my business, it was so simple. I would spend this money and then I would just, I would get these commission checks. And then before I knew it, all of this expense started coming at me. And now I have to make twice as much just to make ends meet. So you've already done the thing where making more money is something that you chased. But if you're honest and you step back, like one of the things that's stressing us out as a nation and as individual business owners is that we don't have the cash reserves that we want to have as we go into this season. So the mindset I want us to start to adopt, even if we never talk to each other again, if all you get from this call today is that if you can start letting go of the thought that the next house that closes or the next big deal is going to be the thing that saves you financially. Instead, I want you to shift away from that and recognize you've already been in that cycle of like, I got to make more money. And the more you've made, it has not fixed the problem. The solution is learning how to keep the money that you're making, which is far more important. So with realtors, one thing that I found over the years is that this is really a confusing concept because we don't see a lot of distinction between ourselves and our business, right? If there's like, well, I'm kind of working at home sometimes, like it's just your real estate business is just around you all over the place. It's not the traditional go to 8 to 5 job, right? And most realtors that I've met over the years have never been taught that they need to have complete financial separation between their business life and their personal life, like separate bank accounts. We're talking like the whole entire separation. And so when I work with realtors over the years, I find that they look at me like I'm crazy. And it's because what happens with you guys, and you know this better than me, is you may go a long time without a closing. And so we have this feast and famine cycle that's going on in our finances. And so we get a closing, we get a commission check, and then all of a sudden we're like, all right, I can finally spend. What I see more often than not is that we're living on credit cards to get through the times that we don't have commission checks. And then when the commission checks come in, we're paying off credit cards, and the cycle is so vicious. So the thing that works to stop that cycle is to have a plan for profit and a plan for paycheck in your business life. But that starts by recognizing that your commission checks are not the same as your earned income that you had when you had a traditional job. So even taking your commission check and putting it into your personal checking account is actually considered commingling business and personal finances where the IRS is concerned. So it's just one of those nasties we never do. But that's a doing thing. I want to help you with the thinking thing. I want you to start to see your real estate business as, this is my business over here. It has its own revenue stream. It has its own expenses. And then my personal life is over here. So in your personal life, that's where you pay your mortgage. That's where you buy your groceries. You pay for all your subscriptions, etc. Well, with your business life, getting really clear as you leave here today, I'd love for you all to take a challenge that I give people who pay me to consult them, right? I literally ask them, and Desda will tell you that I did this to her too. I have her go and print out 3 months of bank statements for business accounts. And if you're the kind of person who is commingling your personal and business finances, then you need to do this for your personal finances. But what you do is you print out bank statements, and like you need the paper, right? And I want you to go 3 to 6 months and go back through with highlighters and highlight business expense, personal expense, business expense, personal expense, and start to see how much you are actually spending on your business. With realtors, I'm not throwing you under the bus, I'm just telling you what I see. Because you guys don't see a lot of distinction between your personal life and your business life, there's oftentimes a little bit of this commingling happening where it's like, all right, what account has the money in it when my kid comes to me and says, I need to go to camp, or oh, we need to buy groceries. Which account has the money, our personal account or my business account? And so what happens more often than not, if a realtor has a business account, what I'm finding is that they treat that as their second personal account. What we need to do is have complete separation of those two, where you have a plan for how your business makes money, how your business keeps the money that it's making, etc. A couple of years ago, this wonderful man hired me to help him organize and create a plan for profit. He had like 18 employees and just a wonderful man all around. And he said to me, Leanne, I want you to teach me how to make $1 million. And I looked at him and I'm like, nope, not doing that. That's not my job. My job is to help you keep $1 million. They couldn't be more different. And you can't get into that mindset unless you start the process of recognizing they are separate things altogether. Treat your real estate business as one thing, your personal life as another. So you're in a season right now where maybe things are a little slower for you. And this is a great exercise to actually go and work on your finances and see what you're actually spending to run your business. So what we're going to be doing is in a few months, I guess, or sometime in May, I believe, I'm expected to come to one of your guys' luncheons, and we're going to put together a bit of a plan about how to do that separation and how to create a paycheck for yourself without this feast and famine lifestyle. So I'm not going to go much more into that today because we have more time booked for the future. So let's just dive right into our second clear thinking mindset. Our second clear thinking mindset is that as business owners, we need to realize that profit is always a decision. It never just happens. It's something that has to be engineered into how you do business as a business owner. So over the next 8 weeks, as we work on our businesses and as we deal with the changes in the world, I really want to say to you that your profit priorities need to be laser focused. That making some money right now is better than making no money. And more often than not, we're finding that making goodwill is a no-cost investment for your business. Where our hands are tied with what we can do physically. But I have to imagine that you are looking at your business and wondering what you can possibly do. If you have people who are saying, I don't even know if I want to buy and sell real estate right now. What is it that you can do to make goodwill? So I'll give you some examples that I've seen from other people that have just blown my mind in what people are doing with their businesses to provide goodwill. And I think it's worth a conversation to talk about what you can do to do that in this season of time. So here's some examples. I know a business that they're like a dog park, and they're in Texas. They're a dog park, and their business basically just got shut down. And they had to lay off their staff. There was this whole thing similar to here. And what they decided to do was go to the hospital, and they said, hey, the two business owners are still able to work there. They just couldn't have their employees around. And they said, hey, we will open up our boarding and our dog park for any first line responder. Like they can just come for free. They looked at that as a way to actually create goodwill and to give to their community and to provide for first responders. I've also seen people that are that are in the beauty industry do really interesting things like, hey, you know what? If because nobody can get their hair done right now. So they're like, if you know anybody that needs a haircut, like I'm giving away 4 slots a week for people who absolutely need this. I've also seen graphic designers come right out and say, hey, if your business isn't online, we will work for free to help you get online so you stay in business. So these are some really great examples of making goodwill as a really no-cost investment into your future business, because your business is going to reopen again. People are going to start buying and selling houses again. We're going to have normal viewings again and open houses and all of those things, and lenders are going to come back to work. Like, that's all going to happen. So what relationships can you nurture right now? Who can you support with your talents and your skills to deepen those relationships as a no-cost investment while you're waiting? So from a priority standpoint, long game, I want to teach you all how to keep the money you're making in your future. But in the short game right now, what can you do to nurture and use the time that you have that suddenly you were all given to invest in places that when your business opens again will be a no-cost investment into your business. The other thing is that communication is the king for the next 8 weeks. I've been hearing from people all over the country that have been coming to some of my classes like this, that because we're stunned, we don't know what to do. And so when the feedback I've gotten from this class was like, oh yeah, I didn't think to do that. So this might be true for you, but you need to be communicating better than anyone that you are still in business and that you are still doing your craft. The assumption is that everything is stopped. That's globally what we are thinking. And most of us are so scared and so like unsure that we're just kind of laying low and like, well, I don't know what's going to happen today. So those of us who stand up and say, hey, I'm here still. What can I do to help you? Who do you need to be connected to? Those are the ones that are going to have the loudest voice in this marketplace. So I really want to encourage you all to tell the world that you are in business and don't hide or pretend that this isn't happening. One thought I had for you guys is to become the experts with your customers about how to handle which we're going to talk about in just a minute, how to handle and what to do with the whole forbearance conversation versus the deferral conversation. Like, what an incredible service to provide to the people that you've sold homes or property to over the last year, to reach back out and say, okay, I'm here for you as a consultant. I know you're not looking to buy a house right now, but let's talk about the house you did buy. Have you explored this? Do you understand how these things work? Do you know you should call your bank? Like those type of things. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You can be telling the world that you're still in business and nurturing your relationship with them without pretending that this isn't happening. And of course, we know that the 80-20 rule is always right. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. And so maybe what we can do for the next 8 weeks is sit back and say, all right, what do my 20% need from me right now? What can I do to nurture the relationship? And I think for you guys as a people group and you guys as a profession, there's limitations, right? Like selling a property involves lots of moving parts. It's the property itself, it's the property owners, it's the lenders, it's the title company, it's the whole thing, right? And so I would think that as a people group, it would be really wise to look at that 20% and really nurture those relationships and offer to help them get unstuck, offer to be there and create and deepen that relationship so that when your business reopens again in about 8 weeks, you're going to have a track to run on. Here's our third clear thinking mindset. And I know I'm going fast because I'm trying to make up for the 20-minute late start we got. So I promise we're going to get to Q&A here in a bit. So here's the proactive practices and the balanced priorities with money that I want you to have. Please write this down if you're taking notes. Balanced priority with money eradicates fear. This is why I love my profession. This is why I love my practice. In both sides of my practices, as a financial planner, investment manager, and as somebody who's a business consultant, profit coach, both of those practices, I get to go to work every day and help people balance their priorities with one of the most untalked about taboo subjects there is, which is their money. Most people that I see in both of these practices have fear and greed as a cycle in how they make financial decisions. And what I watch happen in both sides of my practices is that when we get balanced priorities in place and we've overcome our fear of talking to somebody like me about what's actually been going on in our finances and what we're afraid of and what we want, when those things come in line, then the fear leaves and the fear stays away. And then we're just in action. And then we're setting ourselves up for creating financial peace. That's why I love my work so much. And that's true for you guys as well. So the balanced priorities that I want you to do are going to be action steps. And if you do these things, it's going to begin to eradicate your fear of the unknown right now. Because again, the season we're in, we're afraid for our health, and we're afraid and fearful about our finances. And so I can't fix the health thing, but I sure can help you fix the fear around your finances. So we're going to just break this into some priorities. And these priorities are going to include, you know, the mindset that I'm assuming that you have a business account or several, and that you have personal accounts. So I'm really going to be focusing on your business, but these things apply to your personal finances as well. So let's talk about what you should be doing with the cash that you have today. First thing I want you to do is protect your cash. And I've been getting a lot of pushback on this, people writing me, giving me feedback, but I really want to just encourage you to take this advice and run with it, because what happens, and I know this when I'm doing financial planning or I'm doing profit planning with a business owner, what happens is that we think we spend less than we do. We think, oh yeah, I just basically buy groceries, I have, you know, some kid things, I pay for my mortgage, I really don't have a lot of bills. And it isn't until we go and look at the actual cash flow that we realize, oh my gosh, every merchant in the world has access to my debit card or my credit card. I'm subscribed to this and I didn't even know it, et cetera, et cetera. So I really want all of you to take this strategy of protecting your cash. So call your bank or your credit union and get new debit cards or credit cards issued right away. I do my business banking with Spokane Teachers Credit Union here in Spokane. And they actually have an app that lets me like pause my debit card, you know, and to do that. So what has happened for me since I did this is I did not realize, I mean, I think I realized, but I just didn't care about the details. So I just overlooked it. But I had a Google G Suite subscription of $20 a month that I've been meaning to cancel forever and ever from a former business that I had, that I closed down several years ago. So when I paused that card, Google tried to build that account again, and it bounced, right? They couldn't successfully charge my card. So when that happens, I get a notification, and I got a notification from STCU, and I got a notification from the merchant. You know, Google reached out to me and said, hey, you need to update your billing. And so they made it very easy for me to click a link, and it takes me right to the place to update billing, and then I can immediately cancel the service. So if you will do this, it's going to make a huge difference in protecting the cash that you have today. You will find that you have subscriptions to things, you have things that are not your priority, and everybody's going to try to take money out of your account right now. So the thing you need to say when you call your credit union or your credit card is say, I need to cancel my debit card, or I'd like you to issue me new ones. And this is the key. I do not want you to provide my new debit card to an automatic update service. So I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when you get a new debit card, a lot of times you don't have to go and update your billing with your merchants. And that's because merchants pay extra for the bank to provide the new credit card to them so that that is seamless and they don't have to ask you to update your billing. So it's kind of a shady practice that the banks and the creditors do, but it's a real thing and most people don't know about it. So get a new debit card, protect the cash that you have today, and this is going to give you a chance to really decide as a business owner what you're willing to pay for given the environment that we're in. So if you were to think like, okay, if I sell no houses, if we are stuck in this cycle for 3 more months, and I mean, you know that you can sell houses, you believe that you can get that done, but your biggest, I would imagine, your biggest struggle right now is that people, homeowners don't believe that because they're stuck and they're worried about whether they're going to lose their jobs. And so there's this hunker down thing. So if you could put yourself in a mindset that if I close no houses for the next 3 months in our busy time, would I still continue to pay for this service? Yes or no? If there is no revenue coming in, will I still pay for this service? Yes or no? And if it's on the no list, then that's one of the really great strategies that I use with people to help them clarify that their expenses are not all equal. If it's on the no list, then it's time to cancel it and protect your cash. You can always resubscribe if you want to in the future. Priority number 2. Now this won't apply to all of you, but I am going to hit it because I know in real estate there's a lot of like building teams and that kind of thing. So I want to talk about payroll. Payroll, if you have cash on hand, is obviously your first priority. I don't know if the bulk of you here are doing your business as a real estate professional, as a sole proprietor, or if you are somebody that is maybe an LLC with an S corporation tax strategy and you've put yourself on payroll, et cetera, or if you have an employee that works for you. I just want to say, with the cash that you have on hand, after you've protected it from every merchant under the sun, payroll is going to be your very first priority. I won't go into this too much more, except I want all employers to hear that your payroll taxes have not been suspended. So a lot of times when we hear that we don't have to pay our taxes now, we hear rumor, right? So there's a lot of rumor out there that payroll taxes have been suspended, but they have not. So I don't want you to get stuck in that trap. So it's really important that you file your 941s, which are your tax returns for payroll, and because they are not included in the tax deferral. So we're going to talk about tax in just a second, but just know if you're an employer, you should not defer your 941 or your payroll taxes. So what do we do if we don't have the money to cover rent and payroll and health insurance, etc.? Obviously, we need to start communicating with our employees. And as painful as it is, if we don't have the money to cover payroll and our rent and our health insurance, then we may want to lay off our employees temporarily so that they can apply for unemployment and or so that we can get one of those SBA disaster relief options. This is one of those areas, if you're an employer, that you may want to get one-on-one counsel, because laying somebody off can be a blessing and a curse, but you want to get some wise counsel, because this is a long-term decision. Or in some cases, it's a short-term decision. We're like, well, I'll rehire you when business opens again, but right now I have to do this for your sake so I can let you file for unemployment. But that's an area that you want to definitely seek some counsel and talk with somebody about when we're not in a webinar. All right, the other thing that I want to say about this is I want to talk about filing your taxes. So I'm getting lots and lots of questions about taxes specifically, like, should I wait to file my taxes? Should I not? If you've worked in my practice, you know that I've had you set up a tax account. You have money sitting in your tax account. So here's the thing. The deadline for filing your taxes is pushed out to July 15th. And they've made a very unusual rule with this particular thing where they're saying, okay, not only can you wait to file, but you can wait to pay your taxes. Like, that's unheard of. Usually if you file an extension on your taxes, the CPA will tell you, oh, well, this isn't filing an extension to file. This is not filing an extension to pay the tax. So I don't want you guys to get stuck in a terrible cycle with this tax, especially since you're realtors. And from what I've observed when I've worked with realtors one-on-one, there's a lot of feast and famine mindset. So if you have money sitting around that you have saved for tax purposes off of your commission checks throughout the year, I really do not recommend that you use that cash to get you through with this mindset of like, okay, well, I need this money because obviously I don't have any closings right now, and I obviously have to make my own mortgage and pay for my own family. I'm going to borrow from my tax account, and then when the world opens again in my next commission check, I will get the money and I'll pay my tax account back. I've observed from a behavioral standpoint that doesn't ever work out. So I don't recommend that you use the cash you save for tax. Just pretend like it's not there. And if you can't pretend like it's not there, then I would suggest that you actually make a tax payment, because I don't want you getting to the end of the summer and finding that you owe a big tax bill and that you can't pay the tax bill, and then getting into that terrible vicious cycle of having back taxes on your mind all the time. So let's not do that. And then the other thing about taxes is that even though we can wait to file our taxes till July, if you're ready to go, you might as well file it now. Because if you want to qualify for one of the small business disaster loans, having your 2019 taxes done while everybody else is sitting around in shock and waiting until July can actually give you a real distinct advantage. So what I would suggest that you do is call your CPA and say, hey, do you have some time to help me finish my tax returns? What is still missing that you need from me? Over the years, as I've, worked with people in their finances, and I give out CPA referrals all the time. I hear back from the CPAs that the thing that frustrates them the most about working with self-employed people is they never get their stuff in. People who have regular jobs are like, oh, well, here's my W-4 and here's my 1099-R. Like, what else do you need from me? They don't need anything else. But with self-employed people, we're like, oh, I gotta find my receipts. I gotta figure out what my expenses were. I have to do this, I have to do that. So self-employed people make CPAs crazy. So because you're self-employed, you can set yourself up for success in deepening that important relationship by saying, hey, do you have time to help me finish my tax return right now? And what's still missing that you need from me? And if you can get that pulled together very quickly, then you will be in a distinct advantage of having your taxes done so that you can then make a decision. So over the last 3 weeks, as all of this has unfolded and business owners have been coming to me, I have been actually giving advice like, all right, I want you to go ahead and file that tax return and pay now. Or I've been like, you know what? Let's hold off. Let's not file that tax return. Let's just watch this thing play out a little bit better as far as like, are we going to get a disaster loan? Are we going to do the PPP loan? Let's just watch. So what I'd suggest is just get everything ready and get a preliminary tax return done so you can make some decisions about what's going to work for your business and your family. So let's do the practices. So we just talked about mindsets. We just talked about priorities. And now we're going to be talking about practices. Things that you should start doing right now beyond just talking about your taxes and changing your debit cards. So what I don't know about all of you is everything, but I'm going to have to make some assumptions. I don't know if you guys have credit cards that you've used for your business. I don't know if you're currently carrying business loans, but I'm going to make the assumption that you may have credit cards that you have racked up because of the feast-famine cycle that realtors live in. And so I want to talk to you about what to do proactively with those things. So proactive is priority. What I can tell you honestly is I've worked with people in both financial planning world and coaching, is that when I get on the phone with one of my clients and help them call their bank and we're proactive with them, the banks are very, very empathetic and easy to work with right now. So if, as a rule, you hate banks and you hate bankers and you don't like talking about finances and debt scares you and credit cards freak you out, and I just, if it's an area of your life that you just want to bury your head in the sand, that's okay. But this is a moment where burying your head in the sand is the wrong action. What we want to do is we want to be proactive. So don't be afraid, be bold. So with your business loans, with your credit cards, I want you to call your lenders and say, hey, my business was all but shut down by this COVID crisis. They will be empathetic. They'll be like, oh, we're so sorry. I mean, I'm telling you, like, I'm making phone calls with people. This is how they're doing this. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. How can we help? It's like, what? This is a bank? So what you say is, I need to request a payment deferment or a loan modification. So let me talk to you about the difference between a deferment and a loan modification. So a deferment is they basically are saying we're amortizing your loan differently now. You have some more time to pay it. And so that's why credit card companies are making it really easy to just pause your payment. Bank of America is a good example. You can go right onto their website because they don't actually want you to call them, and go to your loan or your credit card, and there's a button right there to just say pause. I've also seen local credit unions doing the same thing. STCU, you go to your account, you can hit pause my payment. So they're being very flexible because of the default rules that are coming into play right now. So I really want you to do this. A couple that I was working with yesterday, bless their hearts, they are finishing their coaching with me even though they're freaking out. And so we did the things that I'm teaching you to do just as a team. And by doing the things that what I'm teaching you to do, that particular family, they're not exceptional in that, like, they don't have exceptional bills, they don't have exceptional debt, they just have some basic things going on. it changed their finances and their cash flow for their family to the tune of $1,500 to take these steps. So that means that business owner needs to bring home $1,500 less to just breathe through this period of time. So I'm not messing around when I'm telling you this is really important. Call all of your banks and your credit cards and ask them for a deferment, and they will give it to you. They just will. Like I just said, they're making this very easy. And what I'm seeing more often than not is 120 days. Some banks make you call them every month and say, yeah, I need another month. Yeah, I need another month. But a lot of banks are just across the board saying, we're going to give you 120 days. You don't need to make your credit card payment. Don't worry about that. Just worry about taking care of your health and your family. So they're being very generous as a rule. But here is my warning. I really want you to understand that you've got to say this for both your mortgage and for your credit cards. You want to ask them, so what's going to happen at the end of 120 days? Am I going to owe all of these payments on day 121? Or are you extending the term of my loan by 120 days? Don't accept the deferment. Don't accept the pausing of your payments unless you understand the answer to that question. In the first few weeks of this crisis, it was kind of like hands down, we're going to offer deferment. Banks are starting to shift right now, and they're starting to shift to trying to get, especially on the mortgage side of things, something called forbearance. So forbearance is where they're like, all right, you don't have to pay us right now, but when you get to the end, you have a balloon payment that is due. So I'm going to give you a real story from somebody that this really happened with yesterday. I was working with this business owner. We called on the line of credit for the business. It worked out just fine. Then we did a three-way call, and we called the bank. When we called the bank about their mortgage, what ended up happening is they said, oh, well, you need to go through this online process. So we go through the online process, and a lot of credit unions and banks are doing this right now. They weren't 2 weeks ago, but they are now. They're saying, we're putting up a wall, and they're saying, well, we need you to make sure that Fannie Mae owns your loan. And so we go and we saw that it was. And so then they gave us another hoop to jump through, and that hoop was to fill out this application. So we start filling out this application for this family, and I'm looking at the terminology, and I'm like, I think this looks like forbearance. This doesn't look like deferment. And so we paused. We didn't submit it. We called the credit union back. And when we called the credit union, we learned, oh, if we fill the thing out online, they want to take us the forbearance route. If we talk to a human being and say, hey, my business was shut down, I don't want forbearance, I want deferment, then they were like, oh, okay. And they sent us that way. So in this particular thing, knowledge is power. You have to know what you're asking for. So make sure you're understanding the difference between forbearance and deferment. What you want is deferment, not forbearance on your credit cards, your mortgage, etc. The other thing about credit cards is that we are sitting at really, really low interest rates right now, which is great for buying and selling homes, and it's also great for refinancing high interest debt. So the Fed just dropped interest rates down to like almost zero, as you guys know. You guys live and breathe that stuff, I know. But this is a really good time to look for a 0% balance transfer because you have space to think about your finances right now. So be looking for a 0% balance transfer to take high interest debt and move it over so that when the world opens up again, you have actually moved some of that bleed of high interest payments to a place that you have some space to breathe for a few more months until you can get your business into the place that it used to be. The other thing about high interest debt is that I am finding that this is an opportunity for us to shift. If you have an SBA loan, which probably doesn't apply to most of you because of the nature of your business, but if you know somebody who has an SBA loan for a traditional brick and mortar business, this might be a good time to be looking at changing the terms or refinancing that high interest debt. So yeah, I don't think this one's going to apply to you. So let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about, which is this SBA disaster loan, the PPP program, etc. So the last week has been pretty crazy. So the Friday before last, the government passed this stimulus package, as we all know, and small business owners were promised that they would be able to get quick loans and do these things. So I'm going to talk about the quick and dirty of it, and then we're going to open up the lines for questions because I'm sure you have tons. So I would say that across the board, the question people are asking me is, should I apply? And then the second question is, how would I apply and what's going to happen? So the reality is, a week ago, this thing gets passed, and then all of this week, business owners have been trying to figure out what they should do with these loans. And so a couple things I want you to know. There's the difference between the disaster loans and the PPP loans. So if you're a business that requires capital, like if you have a real estate property that is under construction and now all of a sudden construction is stopped and you can't finish the project and you have payroll and you have bills coming out your nose, that's a really good example of maybe wanting to go down the road of a working capital loan versus a PPP loan. So the working capital loans will give business owners up to $2 million, but there's an express bridge loan that is available to business owners where you can get up to $25,000 while you're in underwriting and waiting. The problem is the SBA process is typically very, very slow. Typically with an SBA loan, you ask for the loan and then they come and they say, you're gonna have to tell us what you need that money for. So it's this very slow release of funds. So it's going to be probably for this demographic, especially if you're somebody who pays yourself as a corporation and you put yourself on payroll, you're probably going to be better off to go down the road of the PPP program, which is the payroll protection provision. And so that is the thing that was released a Friday ago, where we are applying so that we can get some cash out of the stimulus package to pay our own selves and keep our employees paid and cover our rent, et cetera, et cetera. So what happens with those is you don't go to the SBA website. No. What we do is we go straight to our local bank. In the last week, local banks have started to change the rules. So if you bank at Banner Bank, and you've always banked at Banner Bank, and then you want to go to Chase and say, Chase, I would like to get a loan with you. Chase is going to say, unless you've had an account here for 90 days or more, we won't even talk to you about it. So they're going to send you back to your local bank. So if you want to apply for one of those loans, you need to go to the bank where you have a relationship. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And you definitely don't want to try to apply for that through the SBA website because it crashed. So this new plan allows you to use the bank's application. And it really is varying bank by bank whether or not they go very quickly or they go very slow. But we're a week into this thing and I have not seen one person be funded yet. So my guess is that they created the funds, they printed the money, they said, here, let's figure out how to get this in the hands of business owners and employers. But I don't think the mechanism of how the Fed is going to release the funds to the local bank has been clarified yet. So if you've applied for that or you're thinking of applying for it, then just know I think it's going to be another couple weeks because banks locally aren't going to release the funds to us unless we have, unless they have absolute assurity that the funds are coming from the SBA. So if you're in a holding pattern, just keep waiting. And if you haven't applied for one of these and you qualify for one, then you want to go today to your bank's website and get the process started. It's different with every bank, and I know you'll have questions, so we'll get to that. The CARE Act, well, we just talked all about that. Let's see, we already talked about that, sorry. And then I really want to take a moment to talk about how things are going to be different in 8 weeks. The how, we're just talking about triage as we've gone through this, right? What do we need to do now? Who do we need to call? What actions do we need to take? But I want to leave you guys before we hit Q&A about how things can be different when you move forward, because you're going to reopen your business. And we have a moment to step back and apply the lesson from this crisis to our business. This crisis has taught us something as business owners, but will we learn the lesson of that? One of those things is that the make more money mindset is false hope. There's false hope if we think if we just make more money, all of our financial problems will be over. Can we learn the lesson that all of our expenses aren't equal as we move out of this disaster? What do I mean by that? Well, when you do your homework of printing off your bank statements and highlighting, this is essential, or if you pause your debit cards like I've taught you to do, and you make the decision of like, no, I'm not going to resubscribe to that. If I don't have income for 3 months, I won't pay for that. Then you're already starting the process of learning that all of your expenses are not created equal. And I hope that you can learn from this crisis that profit is a habit. It's not a result of selling more houses or increasing sales. It's something you build into your business, which I'll teach you more about at our next class together. And that making money in your business is not just about hitting sales goals. Your business needs to be your livelihood, not merely a making money opportunity. And for all of you, it's so critical that you recognize that life is teaching you that we need to have some separation between our business and our personal life. And now we have a space to clean that mess up so that when we reopen our business, we have clarity around that. And one of the things you might learn from this lesson or from this class is that you might just be somebody who needs some financial mentorship so that you can learn how to have cash reserves. If you're going into this thing without cash reserves, that's telling you that there's a problem with your finances. You might need some mentorship around that, and that's okay. That's okay. The finances is one of the most stressful, painful subjects for people to talk about. It's taboo. Really and truly, I think people would rather talk about their sex life than they would about their finances because it is so ridden with shame and guilt and fear that we don't want to talk about it. And so we ignore that part of our business. What's ironic is we don't mind talking about making money or the pursuit of making more money. But the talking about how are we going to keep the money we're making, how do we have financial systems in place, that's where mentorship can help you and help you survive the next crisis. Or if there is no next crisis, how about just thriving? How about just being thriving financially and making known that we are professionals who do our business the right way. And because of our work, we have thriving families financially, and we are part of a thriving community of entrepreneurs. These are the lessons that we want to learn. So how do we get some mentorship? Well, there's lots of different ways. I personally have gobs of free content on my podcast, which is Pursuit of Profit. And I release new episodes every week. So while you're working on your business, if you liked this class, go get more. The Pursuit of Profit podcast is awesome. I have tons of free trainings on my Facebook page. So if you just want to watch some training videos there's one on there called The Wall of Shame. Like you might want to go watch that one. That's a really great one to learn about the separation of your personal and your business finances. If you need a consultation, I do free consultations if you want some mentorship. I have a free ebook that explores the Make More Money Vortex. And then I am actually going to be releasing really soon something called Profit Lab, where we will spend 8 weeks setting your business up for financial success. So when you're back in business, you are going to want to make sure that you have some financial systems in place. And if you are somebody who wants that, I do one-on-one work. So these are the different ways you can research and get that free mentorship from me without having to pay a dime. And now we're going to open up the lines for questions. So let me get this open here. Okay, I'm going to start by looking in the chat panel and see if there are questions in here. Yes, you know what? I'm realizing that I failed to cover something because I was trying to make up some time here. About the loan provisions that are being forgiven. So a couple things I want to say. We don't know specifically how that's going to work. Right now, the SBA is saying that if you are somebody who uses the loan, you get the PPP loan and you use it for payroll, including your own payroll, if you use it for payroll, that is the part that can be forgiven. But you will have to prove that you use those dollars to keep people employed with that. All right. Any other questions in the chat panel before you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. Anybody have some questions? I don't believe it. Crickets, right?
Brenda, I know you have questions.
You can unmute yourself.
No? None?
No?
Hey guys, no, I have no questions actually, Desda. I know usually I have tons of questions, but no, I'll go right on. It's so funny because my CPA just told me to get on Wells and apply for it because, you know, I have been paying my assistant through this. Even though I cut her hours way back, I'm still paying her full time because she can't afford it and she can't figure out how to apply for unemployment, I guess. So
Yeah, for sure.
So I've been just paying her, and I actually suspended my salary because I wanted to make sure that I, you know, hold up my cash,
Yep.
you know, but if I can get approved for this, then that means I can release my salary because right now I'm not getting paid.
Right. It's a really smart move. It's a really smart move to take that step. Where do you bank?
What was that?
Where do you bank?
Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo, okay. So Wells Fargo is making the process pretty easy for people.
Yeah, I actually popped on there and it was just, I had to put in my information and done. Sent it off an email and they said they'd send me an email. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and then just know it's gonna be a few weeks before you see that money show up. The other thing I should have covered, but I'll just say it now, is that if you don't have a corporation and you're not paying yourself on payroll, you can apply for unemployment. The problem with that, this is the rub. The problem with that is in Washington, they haven't updated the forms yet. So that's not going to work very well. And then most business owners that I know don't actually have really good records financially. And so it's really hard to show what was earned and what was paid to you. So you have to be able to show a track record of what you pay yourself and what income you lost. And so if you aren't paying yourself regularly and it's just like a cluster, then it's going to be really difficult to show the Department of, I can't think of it, the state, I'll just say the state, that you lost wages. So you'll have to really do some like triage to kind of figure out what you paid yourself so you can accurately disclose that. But they don't have a form for self-employed people yet. And it will only be 45% of whatever it is you were paying yourself. And it will be taxable. What other questions? Wow, so either you guys were well informed before you got here, or I informed you well, or you're shy.
I think you did such a good job covering everything.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think if there's no other questions, we can call it quits. Thank you all for coming. I think we did a pretty good job making up time. Woo, we did it.
Thank you, Leanne. It was so valuable. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad you came.
Thank you.
That was awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
You'll email the recording to us?
I will.
Okay.
I promise.
Thank you.